In the English-speaking world, we have 4chan, a popular message board website. The Japanese counterpart is 2chan, or nichannel as it is called in Japanese. A similar website that was created before 4chan and was originally owned by the same person, Nishimura Hiroyuki. Although online message board websites, and to an extension social media in general, has become an essential part of our lives, during the early 2000s, 2chan was viewed by the Japanese public as a somewhat shady community, where suspicious or outright illegal activities take place, similar to how people view the dark web today. The story I will present to you today significantly contributed to this dubious image, when a 17-year-old boy hijacked a bus and took the passengers hostage over the next 15 hours, killing one and wounding 2 of them in the process. This boy was a somewhat famous user of 2chan who went by the username Neo-Mugicha, which roughly translates into Neo Barley Tea. Society as a whole was not yet familiar with the concept of online message boards, and the fact that this teenage hijacker frequented the website made the public view the message board as a place where potential fugitives and other antisocial figures gathered. This is the story of the Neo-Mugicha incident. On May 3, 2000, a bus departed from Saga City at 1 p.m. It was heading towards Fukuoka, the largest city in the area, and should have been a relatively short bus ride of a little over 1 hour. There was a large festival being held in Fukuoka that day, and the bus was full of people making their way to the city. At around 1:30 p.m., as they are cruising along the highway, a teenage boy, who I will refer to as Neo-Mugicha, approaches the driver with a large butcher knife in hand. He orders the driver to not stop at Fukuoka and to keep heading north across a bridge into the main island of Japan. He then turns to the other passengers and announces, "We're not going to Fukuoka. We're going to hell." Neo-Mugicha orders all of the men to move to the back of the bus, and to put all of the jump seats down, presumably to prevent the men from being able to rush and overpower him. As an added precaution, he had a 6-year-old girl sit next to him at the front, threatening to hurt the child if anyone tried to be a hero. As he was issuing orders and moving people around, one woman was asleep, and therefore did not respond or comply. Irritated by her lack of obedience, Neo-Mugicha goes up to the still sleeping woman and slashes her face with the knife. The bus was now under his control, and proceeds north to the bridge connecting to the main island of Japan. At 2:30 p.m., a woman requests to use the restroom, so they pull over at a service area. But after a while, the woman shows no sign of returning. Although infuriated, the hijacker orders the driver to get back on the road, and slashes another woman across the face, claiming it to be a form of group punishment. The woman who had escaped reported what was happening on the bus to the police, and by 4 p.m., mainstream television channels broadcast news of this hijacking across the nation. By this time, the bus had made it across the bridge onto the main island of Japan, where the police had set up a partial roadblock in an attempt to intercept the bus. This is actual footage of the bus passing through this roadblock. As the bus slows down, a man jumps off through a window and manages to escape, but the police fail to stop the bus. Neo-Mugicha, increasingly frustrated by yet another hostage escaping, as well as the fact that the police had caught on to his crime, takes out his frustration on yet another hostage by stabbing her with the knife. By 5 p.m., media helicopters were airborne, tracing the bus as it speeds down the highway, heading towards the Hiroshima prefecture. At this point, Neo-Mugicha stops the bus in the middle of a tunnel, and orders all the male hostages to get off. It is unclear why exactly he did this, but it is assumed he was beginning to feel overwhelmed by the added heat from the police and media, and wanted to remove the men from the bus so he didn't have to worry about a potential mutiny. While the men made their way off the bus through the exit located at the front, Neo-Mugicha held the 6-year-old child tightly, with the knife to the girl's neck, to make sure the men didn't try anything. At around this time, a certain thread on 2chan begins to draw attention. On 12:18 p.m. of that day, Neo-Mugicha had created a post called Saga Prefecture, Saga City, 17-year-old, and a post that simply stated he. Initially, this thread didn't get any replies, but as news broke out regarding the hijacking, people began to connect this thread to the 17-year-old who had hijacked the bus. Before long, many users of 2chan would flock to the thread and begin commenting on the incident, similar to how viewers would comment on a live stream today. Meanwhile, the bus had made it into the Hiroshima prefecture and enters a service area to refuel. The police attempt to negotiate with Neo-Mugicha, and he agrees to release the 3 injured hostages in exchange for food and water. As the hostages are passed into the hands of the police, it turns out that one of them had already bled out. At 9:38 p.m., the bus moves out of this service area, but is quickly routed into another one by the police. The media had set up long-range cameras at this location, and you can see Neo-Mugicha inside of the bus, twirling his knife and pacing up and down the aisle. His thread on 2chan had drawn quite the audience by this point. Some users were pleading him to release the hostages if he was watching this thread, while others were simply enjoying the live broadcast, as if watching some kind of action movie. The police gave him and the hostages additional supplies of food and water, and had Neo-Mugicha's parents come into the scene and attempt to convince him to turn himself in, but was unsuccessful. The police had blocked the exits out of this service area, so the situation turned into somewhat of a stalemate. As dusk turned into dawn, Neo-Mugicha was beginning to let his guard down. He let go of the 6-year-old girl he had kept beside him, and would begin dozing off. This is when the police decide to make their move. At 5 a.m., the Special Assault Team, equivalent to the SWAT team in the US, creeps up to the bus, throws in a flash grenade, and smash their way in through multiple windows. Neo-Mugicha managed to inflict a minor injury on one of the officers, but is captured alive, bringing an end to this incident that lasted over 15 hours. Over the following days, details would be revealed regarding Neo-Mugicha and what his motives were. He had been bullied through middle school. During his senior year, he was coerced into jumping off a staircase, resulting in him breaking his back. Although his parents requested the school and teachers to take action multiple times, the school refused to admit there was any bullying to begin with. Neo-Mugicha quit high school just a few weeks into his freshman year, and had since engrossed himself into 2chan, where he would gain a certain level of clout under the username Neo-Mugicha. It was around this time he would begin to take out his pent-up frustration through domestic violence, abusing the house dog and beating his younger sister. It was so bad the neighbors could often hear the sister screaming. Eventually, his parents sent him to a mental asylum, where he displayed surprisingly good behavior. So much so, his doctors found it hard to believe he had been sent there for domestic violence, and before long he would be temporarily released for good behavior. But on the inside, his dark emotions had never stopped brewing. Neo-Mugicha himself would later claim he planned to massacre students at his former middle school once he got out, but changed his plans to a bus hijacking because schools were on holiday when he was temporarily released from the asylum. As a result of this incident, 2chan would also come under scrutiny. People didn't really understand the concept of online communities at the time, and seeing how Neo-Mugicha created a thread of the crime beforehand, as well as how some users seemed to enjoy watching and commenting as the incident developed, made the public harbor a negative image towards the online message board. This negative impression would linger for many years, but gradually fade as online communities and the internet as a whole became more accepted by society. Because Neo-Mugicha was only 17 years old, he was tried as a minor, and therefore could not be sentenced to life or the death penalty. He was sent to a juvenile prison, and during his time there one of the hostages, a woman Neo-Mugicha had slashed across the face, went to visit him multiple times. She would claim in an interview that although she has yet to forgive him, listening to him describe his life story of being bullied, and what drove him to commit the crime brought her to tears. During her final visit, she told Neo-Mugicha that she might forgive him, but only if he turns his life around and becomes an active member of society. Sometime in the late 2000s, Neo-Mugicha was released from prison. He would be in his 40s by now, hopefully having left his past behind and living a new life. What do you think of the case? Was it Neo-Mugicha as an individual that was at fault? Or in the big picture, was it society as a whole that failed to save him? Let me know in the comments below. A big thank you to Korbachu and my other Patreons. Your support is greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you for watching until the end. Please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode. I'll see you next time.